Hello everyone, thank you for joining in today's webinar. We will discuss practical ways to use Fidic Ultimate Diagram in your professional work. And the good news for Latvian participants is that the diagram is available to you in Latvian as well. My name is Zanda, I'm the co-founder of the platform Constructive, and before I hand over to the webinar host, let me just quickly introduce you to our activities. So Constructive is a platform for sharing experiences among construction industry professionals. On our daily basis, we provide legal services and engineering consultations, as well as working on educating the construction industry professionals about Fidic contracts and the transfer of global best practices to the industry in Latvia and as well in other countries. Also, we actively participate in Fidic Best Practice Leadership Committee and Procurement Task Group, so we're keeping our hand to the pulse of the industry. But now I will give the floor to the host of today's webinar, the author of Fidic Ultimate Diagram, Fidic Certified Contract Manager and Vice President of the Slovakian Association of Engineering Consultants, Ondřej Vaněček, and feel free to use the chat below to ask any questions you may have during the webinar, and we will answer them all at the end of the webinar. So Ondřej, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Zanda, and hi everyone. So first of all, just to introduce myself, let me share my screen. So thank you very much for coming today for this webinar. Like Zanda said, my name is Ondřej Vaněček. I'm actually the author of the Fidic Ultimate Diagram, the vice president of the Slovak Association. Everything of this has been said. Also the author of few of the methodologies we've been using these methodologies in Czech Republic for construct management and quantification of claims, methodology of measurement, quite a lot of stuff about the Fidic and how to use the Fidic at all. The reason, by the way, why I'm calling you from a little coffin is actually I'm sitting at the arbitration. I'm sitting in the arbitration hearing for the project that's valued around 900 million euros. And it's a quite long arbitration, but I'm just sitting in a phone booth to be able to speak to and show you the diagram. But the reason why I actually said that I'm at arbitration is I wanted to say that because it's one of the reasons why I actually created the diagram. The diagram is supposed to be a tool to understand each other. It's supposed to be a tool that we should be using on our construction projects to understand our procedures, to understand our mechanisms and what are we doing on the projects. That's like the biggest reason why I created the diagram, because I'm actually an engineer. I'm studied in the technical university. I'm a person that really likes to learn stuff by vision, learn stuff by something that I can see, and Fidic Ultimate Diagram is doing just that. First of all, I will start completely at the beginning. I will try to show you how did I start it with the Fidic Ultimate Diagram. This is actually, give me a sec. This is actually the first version that I found on my computer when I was starting creating it. As you can see, it's quite different from the diagram that we have now, but the only thing that haven't changed is actually the basic legend and the basic principle of how I made the diagram. So this will be the first thing I will try to explain you how does the Fidic work and how to read it, because this is the only thing that hasn't changed since the first version. By the way, this first version was actually created in the year 2001. And again, the reason why I created it is actually to use it in my presentations when I'm presenting about Fidic, when I'm presenting about the claim quantification and about the processes in the construction business. And it was easier for me to explain it on some kind of diagram, some kind of pictures, not just about a text. Okay, so I thought that it will be much easier for people to read. So this was the first version that I created. The second version was a little bit more complex, but still nothing in there. This version was actually, again, a little bit more high complex. And I think that this was like the version, this was the version 1.0. So this was like the first finalization of the Fidic ultimate diagram. I didn't know that I will present it and that I will share it with publicly in this area, or in this stage. This Fidic ultimate diagram was actually just for my purposes and just for my understanding, and to help people in my company, to help my colleagues to understand Fidic. But I knew that this is still not something that I won't present publicly. But the reason why I didn't want to present it publicly, it doesn't look that visually stunning. And actually, the little step that I needed was to use a different software to create a diagram. So after that, I realized that I have a different software tools to create it. And after that, I actually created this monster. So this is the main version of the Fidic ultimate diagram. It's about the book, yellow book and red book 1999. Quite a lot of people are asking me if I will create a Fidic ultimate diagram for the book 2017. Well, I was thinking about it quite a lot. First of all, the problem is with time, because I created this as a free tool. I created it in my free time, and it's kind of hard. It took some time, because as you have seen, the first version was around the year 2021, and this version was around the year 2024. So it took some time to create the Fidic ultimate diagram for the Fidic books 2000. To the Fidic books 99. So I still haven't started to create the Fidic ultimate diagram for books 2017, but probably in some future I will. But on the other hand, I don't think that it matters that much, because on the other hand, the Fidic 99 is still widely used around the world. And as for my information, most of the people here are from Latvia, and you are using the Fidic 99, not the Fidic 2017. So it's actually good to have it, because the Fidic 99 is still in usage today. So let's start actually in how to read the Fidic ultimate diagram. What's the main point, or what's the colors, what's the pentagrams, how do they read them? So for this purpose, we have a legend over here. So it's nothing hard. It's just a few rules that you have to remember, and few rules how to you have to follow. So classical arrow, that's signing some recurrence, something that you have to repeat again, and you're saying how often do you repeat it. Some time continuation, some situation that it's taking for some time. So it starts something or from the beginning and it's going through some time. So it's a time continuation situation. Some comments with a little bubble, some condition. This pentagram is actually quite important. It's the squared one with the little sides. It's a communication. So for every one of you who is using Fidic and know how to use a Fidic, the communication is the main point of Fidic. The communication on a Fidic contract is the most important part. And communication is most of the time going through a correspondence, through a official communication, official letter. So imagine every time you see this shape, this symbol, it means that someone is officially communicating to each party, to other party. So that's the most important part of the Fidic contract, the communication, and it's about the subclause 1.3. Next, we have some occurrence, some situation, basic situations that we can have. Next, we have some reference to the diagram. So the reference to a different part of the diagram. So we can jump across the diagram. Just to give an example, in this diagram, we have quite a lot of references to other parts. So when I'm referencing the 20.1, I'm referencing this area. So I'm jumping through the diagram to other parts of the diagram. So I hope it's kind of easy to understand that. Again, quite important parts of the diagram are the arrows. If you see an arrow that's shaped with no spaces, this arrow means that it's necessary procedure. It's really really important to understand that the procedure is necessary. You have to continue by that. If you have a arrow with spaces, it's a eventual procedure, so you don't have to do it, but there is probably some kind of condition, and there is probably some kind of other possibility to do it differently. Other points, there is just little dots. That's a general linkage, mostly to the comments that I have in the diagram. The next important part is the colors. So we have a Fidic red book 99, Fidic yellow book 99. So the logic goes that the red color is for the red book 99, the yellow is for the yellow book 99. Next, we have the shape of the parties, okay? So the green one is the contractor, the purple one is the employer, the investor, and the blue one is the engineer. Gray is just the general core. And I would like to make a quite important point right now. If you look at the diagram as a whole, so if I will just move it like this, just think about what main colors do you see. So if I just look at it as this, I immediately see that there is mostly green and blue color, okay? So the green one is the contractor, the blue one is the engineer. Just by looking at it, I can make a really important point that all of the construction project is mainly about these two parties. The most construction projects are mostly about the contractor and the engineer. Why I'm saying that? Because quite a lot of times it happens that the employer actually wants to take quite a lot of control of the projects. And it's nothing bad. It's nothing bad, but it can go bad. It can really go bad. The main point of Fidic contract is for employer to actually hire an engineer, and the engineer is acting as a representative of the employer. So the engineer is acting as a project manager of the main representative of the employer, which is the first person that is communicating with the contractor. If we just give some examples, when does the purple color actually is? The purple color is mostly in the beginning when the employer is accepting the contract, when the employer is accepting the contractor and when it's starting the contract. And again, most of the time, employer is working at the end of the contract. So when he's finalizing the final payments, when he is using the works, that's why the employer was building it, to use the works. So again, it's just really important thing to understand that the employer is not that active in the Fidic process. The biggest responsibility of the employer is actually to provide and to pay. This is the biggest important part of the employer. I actually have it in the Fidic checklist on the last part, because actually I put it here as a little how's it called, the Easter egg. I put it as a little Easter egg over here, like I can actually see that it's in Czech language. I have to repair that, but it's like the finishing part of the checklist. The contractor shall execute the works, the engineer shall manage, and the employer shall pay. This is like the biggest summary of the main points what each party should do: execute the works, manage, and pay. So let's move to other questions and other symbols. The gray one is just the general color. Every time you see these symbols, it's some kind of subclause. A subclause in the Fidic. You can look at it. You can somehow just read it and to try to understand more why this symbol is referencing this subclause. There are some terms, so some deadlines. It should be less than a deadline. It should be more than a deadline, just some mathematical symbols, and the symbols yes and no. Okay, so this is the whole point, how to read the diagram. I think that it's quite easy to read, or I hope that after you understand just the basic symbols, that it is quite easy to read. Okay, let's actually see the disclaimer, because again, it's quite important part, because the Fidic Ultimate Diagram was created by me by reading the Fidic contract books, but it's not the only source. The second most important source that I have been using is the conditions for contract construction and the contracts guide. Okay, so the contracts guide is the explanation of Fidic. It's the book that it's taking all of the subclauses in a Fidic in a manner that you can see them one by one. So on the left side is a red book, on the middle side is a yellow book, and on the right side is a silver book, and it's making comments to these subclauses. Okay, so it's giving them more purpose, it's giving them more explanation. This is an official book of Fidic. You can buy it on a Fidic store, and I really recommend you to do so, because it happens quite a lot that when using the Fidic, when using the Fidic contract conditions, sometimes it's really hard to understand what does the subclause actually means and what does the subclause actually provides. This Fidic guide, this source, is actually providing the explanation. It's providing the reason why the subclause is in a Fidic, and it's better for you to understand. And I've been using this source for the Fidic Ultimate Diagram. So it's an official source, it's an official commentary, it's an official explanation of the Fidic subclauses. And I've been using quite a lot of this explanation even in the diagram. Okay, so there is a possibility that sometimes that you read something like some comment or something like that, there is a quite possibility that you cannot find it in a Fidic. But I did not created this thought. When I was creating the Fidic Ultimate Diagram, all I wanted to do, I was trying to not use my own interpretation. I was always trying to interpret the Fidic guide and Fidic contract books. Sure, there has to be some interpretation, because when I'm connecting each symbols and stuff like that, there has to be some interpretation from my side. There always will be, and there always is. But I was trying to keep it as low as possible and to have all of these subclasses actually sourcing the Fidic guide or the Fidic individual books. So I even tried to use the complete text from the individual subclauses. So every time when I'm using some text in a symbol, I'm actually trying to copy the specific text from the subclause. And sure, the diagram is quite large, but if I've been using the whole text, or if I've been using the specific Control-C, Control-V system, the diagram would be even larger. So sometimes I had to make few adjustments. I had to make some sentences shorter. I had to make some something more readable and something more visually more explaining. So again, I have made some adjustments, but most of the times I'm focusing on the text of the Fidic, and I'm focusing on the procedures that are written in Fidic guide. Most of the things in the Fidic Ultimate Diagram are not my interpretations. There are some, but not most. Okay, so let's actually look at the Fidic diagram as a whole. So what you can see in there, most of the people, or most of the important parts that people are using the most, is a diagram for a claim procedure. I think that we will even have a time for go through of this diagram. I can show you again the procedure that the claim is processing, and I can explain to you how the claim is processed. I think that we'll have a little time for that, just for you to understand how to read the diagram even better. Okay, but now I will show you the whole parts of the diagram. So the next thing is the list of the subclauses which a contractor can be used or can be using for the claim procedure. Okay, so all of these subclauses can lead to claim. there are some kind of risks. There are some kind of risks that are written in the Fidic contracts, and the risks that the contractor can use to claim a possible time, a possible cost, or a possible profit. When we are talking about cost, profit, and time, that's what the bubbles are for, okay? So you can see that there are subclauses which have 3 bubbles. That means that these are the subclauses that that the contractor is the contract is providing contractor a tool for claiming the cost, profit, and even the extension of time. When there are less bubbles, for example, in the subclauses 8.4, that means that the contractor cannot actually claim any additional cost or any additional profit. He can just claim time, okay? Because the Fidic is not just black and white. The Fidic is not just about the ones and zeros. There is always a solution somewhere in between. And Fidic is appointing that by few of these risks that are not just 0 or 1, everything or nothing, but it's even making possible to claim few of the things with a shared risk. So if there is like one bubble missing, that means it's a shared risk between the contractor and between the employer. For example, in unforeseeable physical conditions, which is like one of the most used subclause in the Fidic contracts, you can see that the profit, when something like this happens, when some unforeseeable physical condition happens, that the profit is actually in the risk of the contractor, but the cost and the extension of time is in the risk of the employer. And the contractor is using the subclause with the claim procedure to claim the time and to claim the money and to resolve the problem that you have on the construction project. The next part of the Fidic ultimate diagram, what we have is a variation. So the variation, some changes to the scope of work. So when we are planning the works, when we are planning to build something, the plan will never be perfect. It cannot be perfect. We are still people. We are not machines. We cannot plan ahead to think about all of the possible things. There is always some conditions that are unforeseeable. There still will be some mistakes in a detailed plan of the work. So there is always a possibility that I will have to change few technical things on the work during the construction projects. That's what the variation is for. When I'm changing something that was planned ahead, when I'm changing it during the construction project. So, for example, when I was planning to build a shallow foundation because I thought that the geological conditions will be all right, but then I realized that there will be a different geological conditions and I will have to build a deep foundation. So it's a changes to the work. It's a changes to something that I was supposed to build, and then I'm actually building. So it's a variation. Again, it has a quite important projects, quite important process. Sorry. In the process of the variation, the most important part is the instruction. So as you can see, there's again like few little arrows that are not dotted. Please, this is just again to understand, because quite a lot of people are making mistakes in theirs. It means that you can start a variation with a different steps. You can start a variation with all of these 3 steps that there is. So you can start with a variation proposal, you can start with a variation request, and you can start immediately with a variation instruction. But you have to start somewhere. Again, this is the official correspondence. So the parties are communicating to each other to change a scope of work or to change something on the work that was supposed to be done, and they have to start somewhere. So they're starting with one of these, but they have to start, okay? So again, just to give a little context. The next part of the Fidic ultimate diagram is the part that everyone should actually be afraid of, or everyone should not like. It's a dispute part of the project. As I was saying actually on the beginning of my presentation, I'm sitting at an arbitration. I can completely see that this arbitration, which is large, which is involving like many tens of people, like probably like 50 people are working in this arbitration right now, right in this specific moment, it is not necessary at all. I can completely see that this arbitration was not necessary if the parties would be talking to each other and if the parties would actually follow all of the procedures. Most of the time when a project goes to dispute, most of the time it goes because the parties don't understand each other. And again, that's why the Fidic ultimate diagram is for, or that's what the Fidic ultimate diagram is for, to find a common ground, to find a common tool that you can use on your project and you can explain it to each other, employer to the contractor, contractor to the employer. Next part of the diagram is again something that's not really comfortable on the construction projects, and that's stopping the works. So when something happens, again, it's a suspension of the works by the contractor. When something happens on the construction projects, again, we have few conditions. The contractors is actually able to suspend the works and to stop the works. Again, this is not something that I would recommend to use often. It's not really pleasing to be on a projects when there is a suspension of the work. I actually had a few projects when the contractor was suspending because the employer was owning the contractor like quite a lot of money, even like on the approved invoices there was like quite a lot of millions that were approved, but they were just not paid, and the contractor decided to suspend the project that was cost around like 200 billion euros. So I was actually the contract manager that was on the side of the contractor and that was helping to lead the procedure on how to suspend the work. It was nothing pleasant. It was really nothing pleasant. Again, the only reason why I am actually put it in the diagram is actually that it is an interesting process. It is an interesting process, and it is good to know that there is this possibility for a contractor to suspend the work if something happens. But again, I would not recommend it to do it lightly, okay? The next subclass I have is just the easy one. It's the force majeure, okay? So these are just for a few things that can happen on construction site. Again, there's a one important part on the side of the Fidic ultimate diagram. So it's above the legend, but it's quite important. I'm actually a little worried that I didn't make it more people can see. It's just a little bit hidden. It's the part when the engineer, the main project manager of the employer, has to maintain his fairness. So that means that he's making some decision about the contract. Most of the time is a determination. So when the claim is finishing or where the variation is finishing, he has to make a determination. If the parties cannot agree to each other, first procedure is always to try to make an agreement. And if you cannot make the agreement, the engineer is the one who's determining the solution. He's the one who's determining the right way, what to do with the problem, what to pay, how to extend the time, and etc., etc. And within these subclauses, the engineer has to act fair. He has to act fair. The contract is actually telling him to act fair. So he needs to listen to the employer, he needs to listen to the contractor, and he needs to make a fair decision, even if this decision goes against the employer. It can actually go against the employer, and it can actually goes against the employer who is paying his own engineer. This is quite controversial part of the Fidic, but I think it is one of the most important things that you have on the projects. I was already in. I was working on quite a lot of projects when there was a different teams and different roles of individual people. And I've seen quite a lot of projects when, for example, even the employer was the engineer. So when the people from employer were actually making the engineering works, it can sometimes work, but again, you still have to remember that even if they are your own employers, like your employer, they still have to act fair, and even, for example, against the employer if it is necessary. Okay, the contract really needs to maintain this balance, and it's really needs to maintain that there is a possible fair decision, and the engineer should be the one who's managing all of the contract, and who knows about the contracts like everything. So he's the one that should be deciding when the situation goes sour and when there's like no agreement to be found. The next part of the diagram that we have, I will actually move to the middle. It's like, let's say, one of the most important parts again, and that's the procedure on how to start the contract and how to finish the contract. So again, few of the things that the people most of the times they're just not seeing or not understanding really well is how to start the works. Quite a lot of people are thinking that by the signing of the contract agreement, you're actually immediately starting to work. It's not like that in a Fidic contract. Again, the contractor is signing the agreement, is signing contract agreement with the employer, and immediately after that, the engineer goes to the stage, and the engineer is the one who's managing the construction process, and he should be the one who's giving the notice when to start the commencement of the work. Okay, when to start working. It should be not more than 42 days after signing the contract agreement or the letter of acceptance, but it should not be less than 7 days after this notice. Okay, so again, this is the important part that you have to know. The engineer has to be present in the beginning of the contract. Okay, so the good employer has his engineer ready on the start of the projects, and he's ready immediately to give this notice and to start the works. Okay, uh, the next symbols that we have, they are like the contractor's representative. So that means the people that are the main people on the construction project, which are the communicating, is an insurance, is a for example the bank guarantee, the performance security and stuff like that. So everything that you are doing on the start of the projects. I knew that these beginnings of the projects and even the ends of the projects are quite hard to follow. So that's why I did another part of the Fidic Ultimate diagram, and that's the checklist. Okay, so the checklist that you have over here is everything that is in a diagram written by the symbols is actually written by the text with the reference to the subclause. So as you can see on the before including the contract or before the contract is signed, there are a few steps that the employer has to do. And I actually put the tender for the engineer, I put it even before the tender for the contractor. I put it again. This is, for example, my interpretation. This is not something that is written in a contract. This is actually my interpretation, but I think that this interpretation is quite important to understand, because the engineer could even help you to prepare the contract, and engineer can even help you to choose the contractor. Okay, so the engineer could be even the consultancy company that is helping with the choosement of the contractor. And again, the engineer should be the one that has most knowledge about the work, because he's the one managing it. So I think it is quite important to have engineer even before the contractor. And the next reason is that, again, engineer is the one who's commencing the works. Okay, he's the one who's sending the letter for the contractor to commence the work. So it's logical that the engineer should actually be tendered, or should be actually chosen, if even if it is an employer of the employee of the employer. he should be chosen beforehand, before the contract with the contractor is signed. And all of these steps are actually written over here. So what should you do with the reference to the subclause? Okay, so all of these things are written in these checklists, so you can use the checklist on the construction projects to even advise your counterparty, to advise if your counterparty is not doing something they should. Okay, so it's good to have it, for example, on the wall, and to just, you know, crisscross if everything that the contract needs is given. Okay, so we're getting to the execution of the work. So that's the part that actually is most entertaining, when the works is actually creating itself, or not itself, but when the contractor is actually creating the work, and when he's actually building it. So again, there's quite a lot of procedures, but on the other hand, most of the procedures that I have are actually in a different part of the diagram. Okay, as you can see, I actually managed to do a little like way over here to that there is a possibility that there will be claim, there is a possibility that there will be variation, there is a possibility that there will be value engineering, there is even possibility that there will be disputes and stuff like that. Okay, again, I will actually give my focus on a different thing. I will give my process to the PG. What does the PG mean? Again, I can show you on the symbol, on the abbreviation. The PG means program, and the program should be like the heart of the construction project. It should be, again, it's the most important record that the contractor have on the construction project. I can actually recommend you to go watch my webinar that I did with Zanda and Janice on the platform Constructive about the delay and the delay management. During this webinar, I'm talking quite a lot about the program, on how to use the program, and I'm always saying that the program is the most important tool that you have on your construction site. So it should be not something to treat lightly. It should be something that you have to understand. Again, that's the reason why it's in diagram. So you should create, or the contractor should create the program 28 days after the notice of commencement date. Again, you can see that the little letter, the little correspondence, the notice of the commencement date is quite important, because already there's quite few another procedures that are allowed, or that are saying what to do after that. Okay, so again, that's the reason why the Fidic ultimate diagram, I think, is great, to see these little connections to different parts of the contract. So after the notice of the commencement date, the contractor should create a program, and should always revise a program when the program is inconsistent with the actual progress. Every time when the program is not revised, he should be revising it. Okay, so the program should be always be in the program should be always saying what is happening on a construction project. It should be always the same thing. Okay, it's like a digital twin of your project when consenting with the time. Again, the end of the construction project, so you can see there's quite a lot of procedures. So for example, how the taking over should be doing, when the contractor should be noticing when to take over the works. So I, as a contractor, I'm saying my work is almost finished, so please go check it out. There is a taking over certificate. After taking over certificate, there is a statement of completion. After the statement for completion, there's the application for final payment, and quite a lot of stuff again on the end of the project. Again, it's important to follow all of these procedures and to have everything in check. So again, no miscommunications or no disinterpretation will happen. Okay, it's always better to follow the contract and to follow all of these procedures. There are still some parts of the diagram that I didn't went for. So for example, the testing, and for example, when something goes wrong. Okay, so how the contractor should provide a samples. The contractor should always provide the samples of what is he doing, engineer. Again, there are a few reasons between the red book and yellow book, and for example, you can see these difference in these little symbols. Okay, so this is a good example actually to use. So when I'm, as a contractor, when I'm providing the samples in the red book, so the red book design be built when the project documentation, the documentation is created by the employer, the engineer is given and consent that the sample is correct. But when we are talking about the design build, the engineer should not give a consent because the employer didn't create the project documentation. The project documentation was created by the contractor. So when the engineer is actually reviewing the samples, he's reviewing it to the documentation of the contractor. So he doesn't have to give consent. He has to review that the sample is in accordance with the contractor's project documentation, okay? So there are quite a lot of nuances with the red book and yellow book, but they all make sense. And again, I try to show these little nuances or these little differences in the red and yellow book. That again, for example, I didn't show that there is like difference between the variation because or how the variation is defined. Because again, in the red book where the project documentation is created by the employer, the variation is most of the time some difference in this project documentation. You're building something else that was in the original project documentation. But again, when you're talking about the yellow book, there is no project documentation in the beginning of the contract. There are only employer requirements. It's a specific document at the Fidic, and the employer requirements is saying to the contractor, what are you supposed to design? What are you supposed to build? And changes to these employer requirements are the variations, okay? So again, little differences between the yellow book and red book, but they are quite easy to understand or to explain if you understand the procedures of the Fidic contract. So let's get back to the testing. So again, we have a part of the diagram that's for the tests, when the test should be done. You can see that the engineer is the main certificator of the tests. So the engineer is quite active during these procedures. He's certifying the test, he is rejecting the test, or he's actually providing an instruction to do another tests. Okay, so quite a lot of possibilities what to do. This part of the diagram is about the price. So it's how to manage the price, what to put in your interim payment certificate, and how to pay on the construction project. Okay, so what should be in a price, what should be in an interim payment certificate, how should the engineer actually approve the payment, the interim payment certificate, and all of these procedures as well. Again, as you can see, the employer, the only responsibility of the employer is to pay in this procedure. It's not to check the invoices, it's not to check the interim payment certificates, it's only to pay. The engineer is doing all of that and should be doing all of that. What I can actually show you again is the again, like a little part of the diagram, but I think that it's quite important part. I'm saying that these are always the weapons of the engineer. So when the engineer is managing the construction, you know, not every day the sun is shining. Okay, so it's normal to argue in a construction project. It's normal that something can go wrong. It's quite usual, it's quite normal, and it's nothing bad. We're just people. Everyone is everything is doing mistakes. Okay, so if some of these mistakes happen, or if something goes wrong or not as expected, the engineer should be using a few tools in a contract to give some remedies about the situation that's in a construction project. What's the important part? The engineer should always be using these remedies or these subclauses from the top to bottom. Okay, I'm always saying that if you can imagine it, that Rejection is something that they are just saying, okay, you haven't done something right. They're just like a little warning. You just didn't do something. Just some test didn't do. Does some test didn't do correctly? Okay, do that again. It's nothing wrong. You're just pointing that something didn't good as possible. Okay, it's nothing bad. It's nothing bad. It should be usual communication when the material isn't correct. When the, for example, the concrete didn't achieve its final properties, so there is a rejection. Okay, I'm rejecting this concrete because the concrete is not that what I ordered for. Okay, so normal communication, something is going wrong. uh other possibilities is something to is, for example, even to reject something from the invoices. Okay, so I'm not paying for this concrete which is not providing the properties I was actually ordering. Okay, so again, quite a lot of normal procedures that you can see and you can do on day-to-day business on your construction project. But as we go down, these procedures are a little bit more harsher. Okay, so for example, suspension of the work. uh, when something goes really wrong, the engineer has a power to stop the work. Okay, and when I'm talking about this context, the suspension of the work, when I'm talking about in this context, I'm talking when the contractor do something wrong. Okay, so for example, the contractor is not managing to uphold his safety procedures. Okay, so something is going wrong within the safety of the construction projects. The engineer has a power to suspend the work until the safety protocols are upheld. Okay, so just to give an example, uh, there will be a delay cost. Sure, there will. Okay, so when you're suspending the work, the contractor cannot work. There will be a delay cost, and the contractor is actually even able to claim that, but he's not able to claim that if the suspension was because of his mistakes. But again, it's a procedure when you can expect arguments to happen. Okay, it's the procedure when you can expect some emotion on your construction project, and it's normal. It's usual, and sometimes it is really necessary. Okay, and again, we have a different procedures which are even more aggressive, I would say, which are even more harsh. So, for example, the notice to correct. The notice to correct is a little procedure, little letter that is like not saying anything. Just it's saying you really done something wrong, and right now I'm really angry. Uh, it's saying just that, but on the other hand, the reason why is it that low on this graph is the reason that after the notice of correct, the employer is actually opening his possibilities for the project termination. So by noticing to correct, you're actually opening a possibility to terminate the project at all. Okay, so again, these are some kind of harsh remedies. Okay, but it is possible to use these procedures. Employer claims, when the employer is claiming some possible cost or something against the contractor. Uh, Failure for remedy, so that means when the contractor didn't make something right on the construction project, but you as an employer called a third party to correct his mistakes, and you're claiming the cost for the third party to contractor. Okay, so again, it's quite harsh remedy, but it is possible to use it as well. Again, kind of harsh remedy, removal of the employed person of the site of the work. So engineer has a power to remove a person from a site if the person is not acting well on the site. So for example, he's doing something against the contract, or he's somehow doing something wrong on the construction projects. The engineer has a power to remove a person from the construction project. Again, you can expect arguments to happen. You can even expect disputes to happen when we're talking about these remedies, okay? So it's really important to understand that do not use these remedies lightly. You have to really use them only as the last chance of procedure when you tried everything. When you tried all the procedures above, you're trying the procedures below. And the other examples that you have over here is the termination of the employer and stuff like that. So it's the worst thing that can happen in your construction project. The worst thing that can happen on a construction project is the termination of the contract, because nobody is successful that way. That means nobody finished their job. The engineer did not finish the job. The employer did not finish the job. The contractor did not finish the job. The termination of the project, the termination is failure for all of the parties. So that's the reason why it's the last remedy, and you should always try to avoid these procedures. You should always try to finish all of the works, and for example, to be using the Fidic ultimate diagram to finish the works, to communicate better, to understand each other better. I think actually I will finish on this note. I think that actually I managed to go through all of the diagram. We have 10 minutes. So I can even stop sharing and we can actually take some question.
Thank you, Ondřej, for sharing your experience and the diagram with us, of course. We have been using it for our work for some time now, and it really is a great tool for facilitating understanding when working with Fidic contracts with different people. So yeah, massive thank you for that. But before we get to the questions, you all will see a QR code on the screen at the moment, which you can scan. But we would appreciate if you could take a few minutes of your time after the webinar to evaluate this webinar, which will help us to create quality content in the future as well. And the survey will automatically appear on your browser after the end of this meeting as well. But now, regarding the questions. We have some in the chat. So, Ondřej, regarding the engineer, Dimitris is saying that this is the weakest point in Latvia as well, usually of using the Fidic yellow book. Engineer is treated as a regular supervisor and has no real power. What's your experience from your practice?
Well, it's the same thing in the Czech Republic and in Slovakia. The Czech Republic is actually moving quite ahead in this topic, and it's quite usual that in Czech Republic we are starting to have an independent third-party engineers which are even provided with the power to determine a solution independently. You cannot help this with a contract. You can have a most beautiful contract on the world, but it's still about the people. It's still about the people, and it's still about our fears. It's still about our community. So there's like no magical wand that you can say immediately like this should not be happening and will not happen. It's always about that the people have to grow to these opinions. They have to share it. They have to communicate about it, and they have to stop be afraid. It's just a fear. It's nothing else. It's a fear of the employer that I'm giving a power to someone who is leading the contract, but not me. But on the other hand, that's the reason why the engineer is there for. Okay, that's the reason why I should be paying him. So if I'm taking the control from the engineer, I'm taking the control from the project manager, and I'm not managing it. So yeah, it's not a good way to do that, but it happens quite usually. I can understand it from the side of the employer. I'm the one managing millions and millions, and I'm giving the power to somebody else. But I have to choose the engineer, and it's good for the project to choose the engineer.
Thank you. Another question, how the diagram define or explain the clause 20.1, the claim disputes and arbitration, particularly the place where it says, and not later than 28 days after the contractor became aware or should have become aware. How this is incorporated in the diagram, can you comment?
Okay, Yeah, I actually promised that I will look at the 20.1. I actually didn't have that much time. The diagram for the 20.1 is, yeah, it's one of the most important parts of the diagram, but it's one of the hardest. And specifically, this point is one of the hardest because quite a lot of discussion is going through all of the community about the 28 days. Quite a lot of people, quite a lot of lawyers, quite a lot of engineers will give you a different reason. I will give you a different explanation. I will give you an explanation of an engineer and of a contract manager. Okay, so for me, the 28 days should be counted not after the situation happens, but after the situation has an impact. That means after some occurrence or some situation is creating any additional cost or is creating any additional time. I will give you an example. So, for example, we have a COVID. Okay, the COVID went through all of the worldwide, all of the world. And when was the right time to give a notice about the COVID? Was it when some people were getting sick around China? I don't think so. Was it when some people were getting sick around Latvia or around Europe? Again, I don't think so. Was it when some people were getting sick around the construction site? Still don't think so. It was when the COVID started to have real impacts on the construction project. So that's the way how most of the Fidic experts are actually explaining it to the 28 days. You have to count it from the part when the occurrence, where the situation has an impact. There's a quite a lot of court decisions about this. The most court decision that people know is the decision about the Gibraltar versus yeah, like I don't remember what was the other party, but it's called the Gibraltar decision. If you will look for the Google and just Google Gibraltar decision Fidic 20.1, you will definitely find it. Okay. And I actually believe in this decision. But again, there were quite a lot of court decisions about something different, and Gibraltar is already not been using. It's kind of messy. It's kind of messy. For me, I'm explaining the way I actually explain it right now. So I hope that I answered the question.
Thank you. Another question, are you using some software which could help to follow up the execution of the contract execution? Quality, quantities, and something like that. Can you share?
That's a perfect question, actually. Yes, we're using quite a lot of software. Even our company is actually even developing its own software. Because in Czech Republic we are actually on the brink of using a BIM. We have approved legislation that a BIM should be used on every single projects that's by some kind of limit. So, and like almost every single public contracts are above this limit, and these projects should be using BIM. And we have in Czech Republic quite a lot of softwares, quite a lot of common data environments, quite a lot of softwares that are helping us to keep the check of bill of quantities. Softwares that are helping us to make the variation procedures. The software that is helping us to keep the correspondence in line, to go through of the correspondence and stuff like that. To give you an answer, yes, we are, and I would recommend you to go look on the common data environment, the CDE, and you will find quite a lot of softwares about it. And I recommend you to go check through the BIM methodologies and to check through the BIM procedures. And I'm sure that you will find quite a lot of possible softwares to use. Even like, for example, the digitalize building diaries and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like we have managed to answer all the questions and managed to fit all this information in 1 hour.
We're
There's one more
exactly in
question
time.
about the yeah, about the recording of the webinar. And yes, the recording will be available on Constructive YouTube, and you will receive the email about it. I guess that a few hours from now. But thank you so much, Ondřej, once again for sharing your experience and be so much in time. Like literally an hour has passed and we're done with everything and so much information. So thank you everyone for joining in. Don't forget to see the survey and fill it in. And Ondřej, see you on the next webinars.